Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review The Prodigy. So, yeah, it's January, February time, and here's a horror film coming out, and your first reaction probably is going to be, like mine was, this is going to be garbage. Here's the bye-bye man of this year, of 2019, and this film isn't that. It isn't a complete wreck that doesn't really work on any level that a lot of horror films that come out this time of year are. Is this lacking in a lot of ways? Yes. Are there things that really do work? Yes. It's a bit of a mixed bag and unfortunately kind of tilts towards the not really worth it. When you sit back and think about this film, The Prodigy is made by Nicholas McCarthy, who, he's not like a big name horror director. And I don't know if he's really like an auteur kind of director where he really brings something special, because this is an efficiently made, effective thriller horror film at certain points. There's a couple of legitimate scares in this film. Like, I didn't jump and freak out like some of the other people in my audience, but there was one particular scare that I felt a chill go from the tips of my toes all the way up to my chest. And I was just sitting white-knuckling in my seat being like, oh, I did not like that. And even one of the scares from the trailer actually works really well in the film. And there is some really good tension in this film. And there's a couple inspired shots. I felt like, though, this could have really used like a James Wan or Ari Aster from Hereditary, or some of the young horror filmmakers from like Blumhouse or A24. This film felt a little too serviceman-like at points, and there's some wasted shots that were unfortunately just really stationary and just point and shoot that I felt like could have been done with a little bit more technique or something special to really build the tension. But honestly, from some of the things that I did see in this film, I think Nicholas McCarthy has a good chance of being a very talented director. And at first, this is a pretty good shot at it, and it was workable. He did a fine job with the direction of the film. For horror films, for me, it really has to be something special for it to really stand out to me, and especially in the direction, because if it isn't something special in that way, a lot of the scares don't work. There's some that just fell flat to me in this film, and it wasn't really, really atrociously bad. It's just some of it didn't work for me. And it was kind of like a comedy that there were some funny laughs, but a decent chunk of them just fell flat. This is where this kind of lies in that kind of feeling. But from other aspects of the film, from the writing, Jeff Bueller wrote this film. The dialogue wasn't really impressive, and some of the story, and something that really bothered me about this film is I felt like they set you up to go to a place in the third act of this film that there was no there wasn't going to be a well-done payoff. And that's what I worried about. I was getting into the third act of this film. The first two acts kind of worked for me pretty well, but I'm like, no matter where the story goes, I don't feel like I'm going to really like this, or this is going to work for me. And unfortunately, that came true. The ending really didn't work for me in this film, and it was a real bit frustrating that I sat through this movie and got to this point. I'm just like, see, where the story went, it's just going to leave me wanting at the end, and it did. And there's one particular piece of, because a lot of this film deals with reincarnation, and there's one small piece of information that just stuck in my head the whole entire movie that I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And it was really bothering me. And there's a lot of points in this film where it's just exposition dump. And Colm Feore, who's in this film, he's like the quote-unquote famous veteran actor that pops up in a horror movie to solve all the issues, because, that's been a trope in horror movies for a long time. And he brought a very different kind of energy to the film, but so much of his dialogue was just spew! Exposition, 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 and it's just okay. There could have been a more a way with more finesse to be able to take on some of that information. And honestly, some of the performances, Peter Mooney plays the husband, and he fell flat a lot for me in the film. Jackson Robert Scott, who plays Miles, the young kid, some of the parts, his performance really worked for me. Some of the parts were just bad. And I'm just like, ugh. Tricky thing with using child actors in this film being about a possessed, or, sorry, not possessed, like a child with some strange mystery about him. It didn't work for me. And like Taylor Schilling does a fine job in this film, especially towards the beginning. I don't feel like any of the acting really added anything to the film. I felt like there were some moments where she did bring it, but honestly, the cast didn't really bring a whole lot to the film, to the material, and that also helped with this film not really working as much. Overall, like, I'm not gonna say I was disappointed, because like I didn't go in with like big expectations. I wish it could have been better because there was some potential in it, but unless you're like a diehard horror fan and you really want to see a horror movie, this is serviceable enough. You'll get some thrills and scares out of this, but if you want anything more than just like a very basic horror film, you're not going to get it from this film, so I wouldn't highly recommend this. And I'm assuming most of those like diehard horror fans already went out this weekend. It did make its budget back domestically. It made $6 million. I don't know if this is going to be breaking the bank, but honestly, the film's kind of forgettable, and that's the unfortunate thing. So those are my thoughts on The Prodigy. Let me know what you think, comment below, and subscribe, and thank you as always for supporting your Wasteland reviewer.